and welcome to Auto Shenanigans. How the devil are you? Have you had a good week? My name is John. Thank you very much for joining me for another exciting episode of Secrets of the Motorway. This week I'm in Hampshire, where we find the peculiar A3M, a 5.5 mile long motorway that doesn't connect up with any other motorway and for the most part offers insignificant road connections at its junctions. Is it pointless? No. Could it have been better? Yes. It all starts with the A3, a main road that runs from London to Southampton. Throughout the 20th century it's slowly been upgraded, and by the 1960s the idea of the entire road becoming a motorway was a serious proposition. There's evidence to suggest that it would have been numbered as the M3, with the existing M3 being renumbered to the M30. And when you think about where the A3 and A30 roads are, that kind of makes sense. But it didn't work out like that, mainly because there were several objections to a motorway which they resolved by building it anyway and calling it an A road, except when we get to Horndean, where we find the start of the A3M. Until this point, the A3 dual carriageway was built on or near to its old alignment, but with the A3 having to make its way through some heavily built up areas, it just wasn't possible to upgrade the road in the way that they would like, so instead they built a new road bypassing all of the nonsense, and it's what we know as the A3M. And why is this section a motorway when the rest of the A3 isn't? No idea, but I have a theory and we'll come back to it later. Anyway, that's a very brief history of how we came to have the A3M. Let's get crack-a-lacking with Junction 1, and I've got a bit of an issue here because to me it looks like technically Junction 1 isn't part of the motorway. The slip roads don't appear to be under motorway regulations and connect up to the main carriageway before the motorways start, meaning surely that makes them part of the A3 and not the A3M, which means Junction 1 doesn't exist. But it does apparently, and it's a limited access junction. Junction 2 comes and goes. A short distance from the junction, lying derelict, is the site of the former Horndean Raceway, a proper grassroots track suited to banger racing and stock car racing that was operated by the Southern Autosport Association. The Southern Autosport Association was formed in 1971 by a group of motoring enthusiasts looking to do some racing on the cheap. It's not clear as to when the Horndean racetrack opened, but when it did, it offered a unique racing experience with its chalk track surface. By all accounts, the track was a popular and successful enterprise, but for reasons unknown they were forced to move out, with the last event being held in October 2014. Initially it looked like the Southern Autosport Association was seeking an alternative venue to continue racing, but I don't think they ever found one, and the Southern Autosport Association, along with the track here at Horndean, have faded into nothing more than a distant memory. Now, the reason they might have been forced to move out could be down to the construction of the Thicket Reservoir. Possibly, I can't say either way, but this £120 million construction project will see the addition of a reservoir capable of holding 8.7 billion litres of water spread over 160 hectares. It's due for completion by 2029, and they say not only will the reservoir provide a valuable resource of water, it'll bring more benefits to nature, wildlife and the local residents than the existing grass and woodlands. I don't know what those benefits are, a mental health wellbeing centre and a gift shop, I imagine. Junction 3 has seen a few changes recently, but let's step back in time for a moment because I found this wonderful photograph from 1979 showing the junction under construction, and what interests me is this little bit of road on the right. It used to be the B2150, but with the motorway junction and motorway being built, it was realigned. But what that means though is that somewhere in Hurst Wood, just off Junction 3, is an abandoned road, which naturally I had to come and try to find. Unfortunately, there's not a lot left of it. This pathway follows the route of the old road, and that's your lot. On to the more recent additions then, and in around 2016, Junction 3 had a roundabout parking area and a new road bolted onto the side. The new road is called Fitz SW Way, and it was built to serve the newly created Dunsbury Park, a collection of typically unimaginative warehouses built on 100 acres of fields. There's also several new residential developments happening in the area, and you'd think that this new road would help alleviate some of the traffic trying to join the A3M, but no. At one end it's been assigned as a bus lane, and that bus lane is closed. There's no through connection to the motorway, so it's all a waste of time. Things aren't helped at Junction 4, aka Asda Junction. It's a limited access junction with no northbound entry or southbound exit. Useless. As you approach Junction 5, you won't miss the concrete arch bridge that carries the B2177 over the motorway. It's alright, it's not the worst bridge we've seen. Interestingly, it nearly didn't exist at all. At this point, the motorway is passing through the hilly South Downs. The original plan was for the motorway to go through the Downs via a short tunnel so as to minimise the disruption to the natural landscape. At the last minute, they thought, nah, don't care, and decided to build the motorway into a no doubt cheaper cutting, but by doing so, had to build this bridge as well. Junction 5 is the last junction on the A3M, after which it connects up with the A27 via a set of lovely free-flowing slip roads. Actually, the junction is made made up of two parts really, the Bedhampton roundabout and the Broadmarsh interchange. Earlier I mentioned I had a theory as to why the A3M was a motorway, yet the A3 found to the north wasn't. As we said, the A3 isn't classed as a motorway due to several objections, but to the south where the A3M meets the A27 is a very different story. The plan was for the A27 to be a continuation of the M27. Indeed, the M27 motorway was supposed to run as far as Chichester, meaning the A3M would have been connecting up with a fairly major motorway. With the A3M being built as a completely new road, potentially connecting up to a major motorway, it of course makes sense for this stretch to have been a motorway. But sadly, the plans didn't all work out and the M27 never made it as far as the A3M, despite the connections being built accordingly. Now we're left with a 5-mile long motorway that connects two A roads and doesn't really do a lot in the middle. And there we are then guys, that's all we've got time for this week. Thanks very much for watching, I hope you liked the video. If you did, there is of course a button specifically for that, and if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so, that would be wicked sweet awesome. Enjoy the rest of your week, whatever it is you get up to. My name's John, you've been watching Auto Shenanigans, and I'll see you guys next time for another exciting episode of Secrets of the Motorway. Until then, take care, bye bye.